Good morning.
Yes,
Good
good morning. One of my best friend who's also a spiritual teacher and minister at Agape, all of her texts, I got into that habit. God evening, God day, God afternoon. So it's really beautiful. And then it kind of spread. So the last time I was here, I did a very, very long, thank you for sitting through my very, very long sermon on betrayal, or talk on betrayal and self-betrayal. And my other talks, I'm just thinking about how I've shared with you that I didn't honor myself. And when my situation happened with my cousin, I self-betrayed by coming back to this country and not pursuing my singing. And as I was contemplating this talk, I thought, what is the next sermon? What is the next theme in my line of talks? And I thought, well, they got enough. They got a lot on betrayal and self-betrayal through Joseph's journey to Egypt and his brothers selling him, and how he was with God. The message in Genesis, because Joseph's story was in that first book of the Bible, Genesis, and Joseph was with God, and God was with Joseph, that Joseph had such a strong, interconnected relationship with the Most High, that at the end, when his brothers come to Egypt, because there is a famine in the land, he says to them, because they don't recognize him, he's the second hand to the Pharaoh, he says to them, what you desired for evil, what you did for evil, God used for good. Because Joseph was with God, and God was with Joseph. God was with Joseph. God was with Joseph. So my talk today is about divine guidance. Because if we are in partnership with God, we also can tune into the highest form of knowledge, is divine knowledge, is divine guidance, is our intuition. So we live in a world that will tell us that and this is just race mind thinking, that it's your gut, what's that? Why should you know something without knowing it? You doubt it. Why would I know that? That's a crazy idea. But we live in a world where divine guidance or intuition is not really valued. It's beginning with the Heart Math Institute, with science doing experiments, and recognizing that when people use their inner guidance, their divine guidance, their intuition, they succeed and make better decisions. So there are in the last 10 years, there have been many, many studies reinforcing this. So I thought, I think it's important for myself and my community to know that we are made in the image and likeness of God. And if we're made in the image and likeness of God, we are one with the divine mind. We are one with all knowledge, wisdom, and power. And therefore, we can download the blueprint, the path that we should walk. I call it the golden path. When we are aligned with God, when God is with us, we will walk the golden path of life. One of the biggest challenges for me as a child, as an adolescent, was thinking that we came into this world without a roadmap. I was so frustrated. There was so many, and growing up Catholic, I loved the reverence for God, but it didn't offer me answers. And I was never really taught that if I sought within, and Jesus said the kingdom of God is within us, so everything that we need is within us, but that wasn't the resounding message. The message was that I was a sinner and lacked, and that left me, it seems so silly considering we were taught that God is love constantly. And yet, if I didn't go to church on a Sunday and I died on Monday, I'd be in hell. So it made absolutely no sense. But I remember thinking to myself, how could we be given this precious life this precious life without a roadmap? Well, your intuition is your roadmap. Your divine guidance is your roadmap, is the voice of God within you. And as you align and do your spiritual practices of prayer and most especially meditation, the golden path of your life will appear in front of you, and you will walk it, and you will have success and peace and well-being, harmony, and most importantly, you will have an inner joy. So as I meditated and contemplated, Spirit said, start with Genesis again. So we're back at Genesis. The Bible, and as truth students, as New Thought students, we interpret the Bible as the journey of the soul. Each and every one of us is that soul, that spiritual being that awakens to resurrection as Christ, as the divine master and teacher rose and overcame this world. So it's our journey through meeting envy and murder and jealousy and gluttony and addiction, you name it. And then we awaken as Christ. We transcend the world. So it's our journey. So we don't take it literally. We know that it's metaphor, allegory, and deep spiritual, esoteric meaning. It is a wealth of knowledge. So we don't reject it. We look for the true mystery within it. So the Bible is divided into two parts. Genesis actually in Hebrew means beginning. Adam, actually, the word for Adam in Hebrew means humanity, and Eve in Hebrew means life. So both of these are the mother and father of humanity. God gave humanity life. They are symbols for that. And God said, let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds. And so this is Genesis, chapter 1, verse 24. God has created, this is the seventh day. And God said, let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, livestock creatures, and move along the ground, and wild animals, each according to its kind. And so it was. God made the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and all creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. And then God said, let us, I love that, let us. And in the metaphysical Bible, it says that let us, that plural, because we know God as one. We are monotheist. We believe that there is one God. The feminine aspect and the masculine aspect created humanity. So the us is the masculine and the feminine of the source coming together to create all life. So it says here, then God said, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, over the livestock, over all the earth, and over all the creatures that move on the ground. God created man, woman, in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. So we are made in the image and likeness of God. So therefore, why would we think that we will know everything through our intellect? God is spirit. So we must know things spiritually through our divine intuition. Charles Fillmore says to us, the founder of Unity, he says, never say, I don't know, I don't understand. Claim your Christ understanding at all times. Declare, I am not under any spell of human ignorance. I am one with infinite understanding. That is what Charles Fillmore has to say about intuition and divine knowledge. And Ernest Holmes says, if a person always lived near to mind, the mind of God, He would never make any great mistakes. Some seem to have the faculty of always knowing just what is best to do. They always succeed because they avoid making errors. We can also train ourselves that we will be guided by the supreme mind of the universe. But we can never do this until we believe that we can receive direct from the source all knowledge. This is done by sitting in the silence and knowing that Spirit is inwardly directing us. We should try to feel that our thought is being permeated by the thought of Spirit. We should expect it to be direct, but should never become discouraged if at once a direct impression is not received. The work is going on even if it is not seen or felt. Thought is forming in our mind and in time will come forth as an idea. When the idea does not come, always trust it even when it may not seem to be quite as we've expected. The first impressions are usually the most direct and the clearest. They are generally direct from the mind of the universe and should be carefully worked out into expression. So Ernest Holmes admonishes us to sit in the silence, knowing that Spirit is inwardly directing us. So intuition is the natural knowing capacity. It's an inner knowing. It's an immediate apprehension of spiritual truth without resorting to intellectual means. Through the power of intuition, man has direct access to all knowledge and the wisdom of God. Intuition is the highest function of human consciousness. So what is intuition? This was so beautiful, I looked it up again. Intuition is the language of spirit, but it works not in words. It is pure knowing and pure feeling. So our intuition will be pure knowing, we'll know something, we'll feel something, and we won't know how we know it. And because God is spirit and we are made in the image and likeness of God, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. This knowing and these feelings will be instant. Intuition, God then translates this language of God, pure knowing and pure feeling, into words. You get a feeling, I shouldn't go down that street. You get that feeling. Maybe the hairs on your neck stand up. Then you get a knowing, if I go down, something's going to happen. And then you might hear, don't go down that street. So you get the pure knowing first, the pure feeling, and then it translates into language. That is how God works, in and through our intuition. Intuition is the function of consciousness by which we receive divine ideas direct from the mind of God. We intuitively perceive spiritual truth, which is our divine inheritance as children of God. And since we are made in the image and likeness of God, we will know these spiritual truths if we heed them, if we listen. There is always a choice. So the golden path of a spiritually successful life will appear in your world, in your reality, if you will heed your God perceptive system, your divine GPS. If you will heed it, you will make no mistakes, and your life will be a success, lived from the inside out. It may not look like the human being's idea of success, but it will be a spiritually successful life. But we have a choice. And so I wanted to talk about an experience that I had where I had a choice to listen to my divine, my God perception system, my divine GPS. And by grace, by God's grace, my butt was saved. I'll put it that way. So, a few years ago, with my ex-fiance, we were house sitting for a month in Pasadena, California. my then very good friend, a former client of mine, she's married to, she lucked out and got married to an Italian brain surgeon so they can spend the summers in Italy. So she has some fabulous friends, and I couldn't believe that she called me out of the blue and said, I was thinking about you, you work too hard, you need a break, you guys could come stay at our place for a month and watch Kiko. Kiko was her little Maltese dog that she had for about, I think, he was 11 years old, I don't know dog ages, but he was 11 years old at the time. So we would watch Kiko because they lived in the San Gabriel Valley, kind of on a cliff, in a 20th century house that had glass all in the back, and you could see the valley forever, but there were coyotes. And because she lived in this mountainous, incredible place, coyotes would come down and grab people's cats, dogs, and one tried grabbing a small child. So Kiko had to be watched 24 hours, and because it was very, very hot and these doors were sliding, we had to kind of babysit Kiko. So 1, I'm Caribbean American. 2, I'm a cat person. 3, I'm not all into animals like that. I love them, but I thought she's exaggerating. She's exaggerating because she's like an obsessed mommy, dog mommy. So, but I thought, we'll keep an eye on Kiko, whatever. So we're there, having an incredible time. My gosh, what a gift it was. And I remember I'm not a dog person, so she's like, well, Kiko sits on your lap when you drive, and Kiko sleeps with you. And I was like, that little dog isn't gonna sleep. Well, we fell in love with Kiko, and I'd wake up at night, and Kiko's little white, fluffy face would be looking at me in the middle of between us in bed. I fell in love with this little dog. Well, because Maltese dogs are very curly, I guess his hair had overgrown, and he began biting its nails, trying to get its hair would grow into the nails and all of that. So one day this little dog, woke up with a very bloodied palm, and I texted her in Italy and I said, what do we do? We'll take the dog to the groomer and have the dog's hair done. And so the groomer was 40 miles away. Exactly. And I had never driven an SUV. She left us the keys to the cars, this gigantic thing with a dog on my lap.
Oh my God.
And on the freeways of California, where you have to do a minimum of 80 or you will die because everybody's doing 120. So that morning, I woke up and I was making my coffee and getting prepared for the day, and I just found myself trembling. I was extremely nervous. I was trembling. I had fallen off of my spiritual practice. I was luxuriating. I wasn't taking time to meditate and pray. And before we left the house, I said to what do I call him? My ex-fiance, who knows? I don't know what to call him at this point. But I said to him, I don't feel good about going without prayer. I need to pray. I don't know why I'm so nervous. I need to pray. And he was very funny. He was a bit of a skeptic, but whenever I got like that, he was like, babe, pray, because I know something's gonna happen. He's like, pray, take all the time you need. So, because I thought, I feel extremely nervous. So I sat in prayer for about 15 minutes. I tuned in, but I didn't get anything. But I sat in prayer, I declared protection around the vehicle, protection, and a wonderful day. I gave thanks. So I really felt as though I was being paranoid. Maybe I didn't sleep right. I didn't, maybe it was something I ate. I thought that I was being suspicious, being superstitious, pardon me. And so we left, and he didn't want to drive, and this dog's on my lap, and I'm doing 80, and I'm like, God, let us not get killed and all of that. So we arrive in this town, I forget the name of the town, 40 miles away, very, very flat, and I remember this really swanky kind of mall with palm trees, and we went to the groomers. And we were there a little early, and she said, well, can you come back? I'm taking care of another dog. It'll be about 30 minutes. So we walked across the parking lot. So it's about 12 noon, extremely hot. And in LA, sometimes at 12 noon, things are empty because everybody's an artist and nobody wakes up early. They work up early to work out, and then I think they go back to sleep. Anyway, there was no one there. So imagine a very, very sparse parking lot, and we're walking from the groomers across the parking lot, and there is a Starbucks. And what I love in LA or California about the Starbucks and Whole Foods is that they always have a beautiful patio. So my ex goes into the Starbucks and I sit on the patio. I look over and there's an elderly man at another table, and there are probably about 30 tables on this outdoor patio. Now, I am sitting in a corner. So there's a wall. I choose the farthest corner because I've become a dog mommy. I'm obsessed with this little dog. And so I put Kiko down right next to me. So I'm seated, I'm looking out, but I'm in a corner. There is a wall right here, and my back is to the wall. So Kiko is in the point of these two walls in the corner. And I begin to hear, pick him up, pick him up, pick him up, pick up Kiko. And I look around and there's nothing. I'm like, why should I pick up Kiko? I'm like, I didn't give birth to this dog. I need to let the dog be a dog, be on the ground, sniffing in the corner and doing its doggy things. Why should I pick up Kiko? And I look around again, pick up Kiko, pick up Kiko, pick up the dog, pick him up. I look around, nothing. At that point, I'm seated in the chair. Illustration. So I'm seated in the chair, so I turn this way and corner him in the corner a little bit. There's a little space because there's a wall here and there's a wall here. And I look around and I go, why should I pick up this dog? And as I'm looking at the dog, laughing at myself for being overly protective of an animal that has to do its animal things, as I'm sitting there, out of nowhere comes a German Shepherd that grabs the dog by its tail, actually swallows up the back half of the dog, holds it by the mouth, and I sit there and time stops, and I let out a blood-curdling scream. I have never, and this dog has my dog by its hind back, by its butt, in its mouth, and I screamed so loud that 20 people who were inside of the Starbucks rush out. The German Shepherd lets go of Kiko, but is about to attack me. And I look up and it's a 12-year-old boy who has lost control of a gigantic German Shepherd that was about to kill Kiko. And everyone is screaming. That silent, quiet place that, had been empty. People, and the old man's like, your dog almost killed that little dog. And why are you with that dog? And so he was with his 15-year-old sister who's like, why are you guys freaking out? This is really no big deal. I don't understand why she's so upset. And I'm like, little girl, I'm from Haiti. And in Haiti, little kids like you who are fresh with an attitude. And my ex is like, I heard a blood-curdling scream. I'm holding Kiko. Kiko's like this. I'm like this, and I'm like, your dog almost killed my dog. Get away from us, and we'd sue you if I was. And this little girl's like, get over it, lady. You're making such a big deal about it. It's no big deal. I said, you shouldn't be with that dog. If you can't handle a huge, gigantic German Shepherd, why are you walking with? Oh my gosh. So we run across the parking lot to the groomer, and we're like, if the parents of this dog ever find out that this happened, she's like, I will go to my grave with it. I said, can you check Kiko? Can you check? Nothing was wrong with him. She's like, he's really shaken up. She's like, let's do the nails another time. She wrapped his paw. We got in our SUV. This little girl was like, get over it. I was like, I'm gonna come and beat your... And we're driving away. And I thought, oh my God. I didn't listen. However, I prayed. So God's divine benevolence and grace saved my life. When my friend was leaving for Italy with her friend, with her husband, she left me a credit card. She said, no amount of money is too much. If something happens to my dog and it costs $70,000, put it on this credit card, save my dog. That's how important Kiko was to her. As we're driving back, shaken beyond belief, Kiko's still shaking, we did research. German Shepherds have been known to kill small dogs. If they're not with an alpha, if they're not with a parent or their owner that's a very strong, dominant alpha, they become very dominant about the dogs around them. They've been known, especially in California where people have a lot of dogs and are out, to kill them at parades. They will grab, and you cannot get them off of that dog if they get on the dog. And here was God, Spirit, telling me, pick up Kiko. And I'm looking over, within a flash of a few seconds, this dog appeared out of nowhere. I looked around, I said, why should I pick up this dog? I checked 20 times. I checked 200 times. Because it made no logical sense. But a dog of that strength and power running can instantly, and animals and instinct, the dog almost got killed. Because I didn't listen, but I prayed that morning. So I listened to something. I had a feeling that something might happen that day. So I went into prayer. But when it didn't match my intellectual logic, why should I pick up, there's this old guy and me and the dog for miles around, there's no one else. Why should I pick up this dog and treat it like my baby? Spirit was trying, but God's grace and the scream I let out. Time stopped. It was one of the most horrific scenes in my life. And I sat there, I couldn't speak. And this scream, and my scream saved the dog. So, it is so essential that we align with the one power and the one presence. I know that so many of us have incidents in our lives, maybe not as dramatic, maybe more dramatic, where we received a download and we didn't heed it. Something was coming towards us, and because a good, a blessing, a gift, a knowing, a guidance, a protection, and we didn't heed the message because it made no sense to our human mind thinking. In the same way in that experience, it made no sense. The evidence before me was, to my human mind, everything's okay. Why am I knowing this? So through the practice of prayer and meditation, we will receive downloads. We will receive the downloads of God. So spiritual intuition is often misunderstood. We sometimes confuse it with something fanciful, way out there, or far-fetched. I certainly did that day. However, intuition is not merely a superstition or some strange magic. It's the divine urge of our inner God. Since we are created in the image and likeness of God, spiritual intuition infuses our very being with all the power we need to live and express our best and highest selves and our best and highest life. So my beloved unity in the city family, practice your meditation, practice your prayer, and by divine grace and divine guidance, your life, the golden path of goodness, truth, beauty, and mercy will follow you all the days of your life. And so it is.